Hello everyone, Fred here. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be reviewing the young adult mystery novel Nothing More to Tell by Karen McManus. First things first though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. To date, I've released 3 books, The Women in White, The Lethal List, and most recently, Textbook Murder. They're all on sale now, and there are purchase links in my video description below. With that in mind, and without further ado, welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Karen McManus's YA mystery novel, Nothing More to Tell. Be sure to keep your friends close and your secrets closer. 4 years ago, Bryn left St. Ambrose High School following the shocking murder of her favorite teacher, a story that made headlines after the teacher's body was found by 3 St. Ambrose students in the woods behind their school. The case was never solved. Now that Bryn is moving home and starting her dream internship at a true crime show, she's determined to find out what really happened. The kids who found Mr. Larkin are her way in, and her ex-best friend, Trip Talbot, was one of them. Without his account of events, the other 2 kids might have gone down for Mr. Larkin's murder. But instead, thanks to Trip, they're now at the top of the St. Ambrose social pyramid. Trip's friends have never forgotten what Trip did for them that day, and neither has he. Just like he hasn't forgotten that everything he told the police was a lie. Digging into the past is bound to shake up the present, and when Bryn begins to investigate what happened in the woods that day, she uncovers secrets that might change everything. About St. Ambrose, about Mr. Larkin, and about her ex-best friend, Trip Talbot. 4 years ago, someone got away with murder. More terrifying is that they might be closer than anyone thinks. So I read this book in September 2022, but I had been awaiting it since it was announced in late 2021. I love both adult and young adult murder mysteries with premises based around true crime investigations. Karen McManus is a strong writer with quite the unique take on YA, so I was keen to see how she'd go about tackling the concept of a true crime-based YA murder mystery. I got my copy of this book the day after it came out, and I finished it shortly thereafter. First, the good. As with basically every Karen McManus book, the characters are collectively the best part. Since her debut novel, One of Us is Lying, Karen has shown an absolute masterful ability to write relatable teenage protagonists, and she's at her best when she writes them with flaws. I've read all of her books, and if there's one constant, it's her power to present troubled teens who overreact and make spectacularly poor choices, but who earn the reader's full sympathy with their beautifully, disastrously complex life situations. And that sympathy is exactly why the reader feels an almost personal sense of triumph as those characters slowly figure their lives out and improve themselves by the end of the story. Both Bryn and Trip are presented here as messed up characters, Trip way more so than Bryn, with plenty of wounds that need healing so that they can move on and become the best versions of themselves. This is pretty much standard fare for a Karen McManus novel, but it's no less exciting to read as Bryn and Trip go through the steps towards getting there. Trip is dealing with many layers of issues stemming from abandonment by his mother, finding Mr. Larkin's brutalized corpse at a vulnerable age, and having secretly carried the knowledge for 4 years that his own father had a strong motive for murdering Larkin. Bryn's issues are less dramatic but equally poignant. She finds herself virtually friendless in a town that holds some of her worst childhood memories, including being rudely cast aside by Trip. Her natural bent as an investigative journalist makes it naturally hard for her to be sensitive to others and view their problems as real issues more so than evidence or story beats. And it's truly heartwarming to watch Bryn and Trip slowly find their way, both alone and later together. Bryn and Trip's development as individuals and as friends was a delight, but their slow growth as lovers was the icing on the cake. When enemies and or opposites fall for each other in a Karen McManus book, it is art. Hilarious, distressing, uplifting, triumphant art. That trend is not broken with this book, so watching Bryn and Trip deny and fight their growing feelings before ultimately realizing that it has been them the whole time just hits all the right notes for all the right reasons. This book's use of its own true crime premise as a launching pad for subtle references to Karen McManus's previous books was a masterwork of genius that I didn't see coming but totally enjoyed. If there's one thing I love in movies, books, or TV, it is carefully crafted shared universes. And Nothing More to Tell is definitely the genesis of what I am going to call the McManus verse. You heard that here first. One of Us Is Next was technically the first of Karen's books to be featuring characters or continuing storylines from another book, but it's only in Nothing More to Tell that we get the first indication that every one of Karen's books to date exists in the same universe. The callouts are not ostentatious or distracting, generally speaking, nor should they be, but they are there. The subtle references to the Echo Ridge case, or the Story case, or what happened in Carlton. Nothing More to Tell is a standalone book that can be enjoyed on its own terms, but if you have read Karen's previous books, the references to the expanded world will be a nice treat for your diligence, and really I think that's the test of quality for any shared universe, how well each link stands on its own. And Nothing More to Tell definitely left me joyously wondering just how long it'll be before some of Karen's protagonists from these separate books actually start meeting each other in future stories. Nevertheless, I do have one very minor disappointment with all the McManus verse stuff, which is that the very last McManus verse reference, which is a nod to Maeve Rojas and Mikhail Powers near the book's end, did seem like maybe a half step too far. It wasn't as seamlessly woven in as the other references. It came out of the blue. It almost felt tacked on just to indicate that the One of Us Is books, which had not been referenced until then, occurred in the same universe as Karen's other books. Okay, now the bad. The story of Nothing More to Tell felt very bland to me on many levels. Karen McManus took the world by storm with One of Us' Lying's unique approach to presenting realistically flawed teenagers and building a mystery that they had to confront their various vices to solve. Moreover, the twist of that mystery and the according social commentary in One of Us' Lying was just so sobering that it couldn't help but stick with you. However, as Karen has continued releasing books, it feels like most of her subsequent stories have been slightly to largely failed attempts at getting back to the high watermark of One of Us' Lying. And Nothing More to Tell, I'm sorry to say, does not break that pattern. Nothing More to Tell's premise drew me in like a shot, but the mystery didn't live up to the hype. Much of the so-called investigation in this book felt like throwing guesses at the wall until something stuck, and there are a metric ton of red herrings and leads that go nowhere. Many of this book's storylines also felt like reductive rehashes of more moving or nuanced variants from Karen's previous books. Bryn and Trip's romance felt at times like a lesser send-up of the iconic Nate and Bronwyn love story from One of Us' Lying. Trip's parental problems ring in as weaker reminiscences of Nate's from One of Us' Lying. The drama of Bryn's keeping from her friends the details of her motive internship and the eventual fallout of that choice resemble the Jonah North imposter situation from The Cousins. Bryn's sister Ellie, who is this book's obligatory gay character, feels like a less complicated, stereotypically perfect version of Maeve Rojas. Ellie herself even makes a joke about that near the book's end. Now, Nothing More to Tell is still very well written, language-wise, and from a character and dialogue standpoint. The mystery just wasn't that good, and the overall story just wasn't as moving as Karen's best work has been. This is the second of Karen's books, the first being You'll Be the Death of Me, in which the insane requirement of suspension of disbelief distracted me from the story. You'll Be the Death of Me required that the reader suspend not just disbelief, but reality as well, to digest its premise that 3 kids basically discovered and squashed a statewide drug ring, stumbled upon a murder, busted the murderer, and solved all of their years festered emotional problems in fewer than 24 hours. Nothing More to Tell requires the same suspension of disbelief at least, but for different reasons. By the end of this book, it turns out that so many people with motives for murder fought or argued with or otherwise interacted with Mr. Larkin in the minutes before his death that it beggars belief. Nothing More to Tell does eventually reveal Mr. Larkin to be quite a shady man beneath the surface, so it makes sense that plenty of people would not like him. But still, the notion that so many of those people happen to randomly converge one by one upon him right before his death without running into each other is too much of a stretch. The 2 ending twists felt like butt pulls to me. Nothing More to Tell spent so much time running down red herrings that it seemed like the ending was just about exposing the only characters who either hadn't been accused or hadn't had their darkest secrets revealed as the guilty party. It was an afterthought of a wrap-up, really. That's how it felt. Also, this book is Karen McManus' 3rd, after The Cousins and You'll Be the Death of Me, book to feature the open closure concept in which a criminal culprit is revealed at the end, but in which the capture or punishment of that culprit is left an unanswered question. That trope just barely worked for me in The Cousins. It fell flat in You'll Be the Death of Me, and I didn't like its inclusion here any better. Okay, brass tacks. Nothing More to Tell is a strongly written novel with a great hook and gripping character development. The use of the true crime premise to catalyze callbacks to Karen's other novels is an extra reward for longtime fans. The story wobbles a bit, however, when it comes to the execution of the main murder mystery. Some of the plot lines feel derivative of more moving arcs from Karen's earlier novels, and the ending, while surprising, leaves a little to be desired. All in all, the book is a good but far from perfect read. I give Karen McManus' Nothing More to Tell 3.5 cronuts out of 5. At any rate, let me know what you all think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Sound off in the comments below. Meanwhile, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.